Or shot fire, officer down, shot fire, officer down. Got a city officer down, shot fire.
223, be advised, we have a visual on enemy paratroopers at grid Papa uniforms.
Welcome to the Resilient Warrior Nation, a podcast dedicated to inspiring hope and healing for first responders, military veterans, and anyone facing PTSD and trauma. Hey guys, welcome to another podcast episode of the Resilient Warrior Nation. I'm your host, Mike Morgan, and as I do every episode, I like to first explain why I'm wearing the shirt. This is not a proclamation. This is actually the name of a company owned by a man named Eddie Penny, a former Navy SEAL, Team 6 or DevRu guy. In the spring of 2023, I sat down to watch a podcast episode of the Shawn Ryan Show in which Eddie was a guest, not knowing that the entire trajectory of my life was about to be changed. During the course of the episode, Eddie was recounting the story of the Extortion 17 incident in which a Chinook was shot down in Afghanistan, killing all 38 aboard. This included 17 SEALs. It was the largest loss of community in one event ever. Included in the dead was a man named Jason Workman, Eddie's best friend. And as Eddie was giving his account of escorting Jason's body back to his hometown, Eddie was visibly upset, rightly so. And I myself am a 30-year medically retired police officer veteran. I began thinking about a call that I had buried 5 years before of a 2-year-old found floating in a pool. And as Eddie was telling his story, I began thinking about that call. And next thing I know, I was weeping like a little baby. Really had no clue what was going on with me as this is happening real time. But knowing now what happened was subconsciously I'm watching an absolute warrior tell his story and become vulnerable, and it told me it was okay to cry, and essentially the Pandora's box was open from there. I've been retired a little less than a year, and I have been experiencing feelings of anger, rage, depression, just general unhappiness. I was not sure of the origination until that precise moment. It was like a snap of a finger. I realized I had some sort of PTSD, and I'd suffered during the course of my career. It was kind of surprising to me, which it should not have been. But at that point, I realized I needed help, and I chose psychedelics as my modality for healing. As I was ayahuasca being the main, and as I was coming out of my first journey, the universe and I were having a conversation. I know it sounds weird, but the universe told me I was healed, and my life's pursuit was to go forth and help other first responders and vets. So in that vein, I decided to create a podcast, do for others what Shawn Ryan did for me. And that is where we are now. So what I do is bring on ordinary people who've done extraordinary things with their lives. I show their highest of highs, their lowest of lows, in the hopes that you guys are inspired by their story. It gives you inspiration for healing. Hopefully you can identify with my guests and realize that they are just like you. So in that vein, I want to introduce my next guest. Wait till you guys hear this biography. It is unbelievable. I have Nick O'Kelly. Nick is a retired Chief Warrant Officer 3 with 13 years in US Army and 9 in Special Operations. He's one of a very few to have served as both a US Army Green Beret and an MH-60M Black pilot with the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the 160th as they're known. He completed 7 overseas deployments, including 3 combat tours, and flew direct support for Tier 1 special mission units in some of the world's most hostile environments. He's now the author of Stigma, which breaks the code of silence around mental health in the military and high-performance communities. It shows that strength and struggle can exist together, and that battle is not weakness. Nick, welcome to the show. It is my absolute honor and pleasure to have you on, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. I am grateful to be on your show as well, and I love your mission. I love that opening, man. That's powerful.
Yes, thank you very much, bro. Like I said, it was life-changing. And first off, just a little humorous story, side note here. I became aware of Nick through my buddy Doug White. Doug authored a book called
Hiding in Plain Sight.
Hiding in Plain Sight. I had to mix it up with another first responders book, Hiding in Plain Sight, which is fantastic. I'm literally just about to finish it today. I highly recommend it to anyone. But Doug had put Nick's story on his story on Instagram, and I kind of clicked on Nick's bio, read it, super impressed, as would anyone, and reached out to him, asked him to be on my show, told him what my mission was about, and he readily agreed. Later that night, I'm on a Zoom call with my mindset coach. A few of you know Taylor Kavanaugh is my mindset coach, former SEAL and French Foreign Legionnaire himself. Taylor tells me, Mike, I need to introduce you to a guy, great dude, Green Beret. He's got a book out called Stigma. I'm like, whoa, get the fuck out of here, bro. What's his book? I go, and he says it again. I said, is his name Nick O'Kelly? And now Taylor's staring at me like I have three heads. I'm like, and I just reiterate the story I just told about how I reached out to Nick earlier that day. I hold my phone up, and I'm showing Taylor where he accepted to be on my podcast. And it was unbelievable. As soon as I get out of the room after that Zoom call, I texted Nick immediately and told him, and it was just a crazy story.
Dude, the world gets smaller and smaller. It is insane. Like, yeah, a week ago we didn't even know each other, and now we have two mutual connections, and here we are. It's pretty phenomenal.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And Nick said his next child is going to be named Michael after me, so it only gets better, man.
Exactly.
It really does. All right, brother. Again, I am so pumped to have you on the show. Your career is just unbelievable. I can't wait to dive into it and hear about it. So let's go chronologically and just talk about where you grew up, how you grew up, and just get the audience to know you as Little Nick, and then we'll go from there.
Awesome. So Little Nick grew up in Western Washington, Seattle area, and suburbs of Seattle, which most people don't know, but it's a little more country than you'd expect for Western Washington. You know, people think the big city life, but family of six. So I had a older sister, younger brother, and younger sister. When we were growing up, like our younger years, we were pretty poor. We lived in like a quadplex, 2-bedroom quadplex with a family of six, 2 bedrooms. So you think about that, it was like we were basically sleeping on each other. But the thing is, looking back on it, like when you're at that age, you don't really think about it, right? It's not until you go back and visit when you're older, you're like, man, we were roughing it a little bit.
Yeah,
but yeah, exactly. So when I got into 5th grade, my dad moved us into a neighboring suburb, and we kind of lived the white picket fence American dream life, if you will. But a constant theme throughout my childhood was just high standards and high expectations. Like we were the family that if I got a B+, it was not good job. It was what happened, what can you do better, and how are you going to fix this? You know, so that was always ingrained in me from forever, really. But the caveat to that, the bad side of that, I guess, is when I went to college, I didn't have the guardrails of my mom being like, you have to do this, right? It was almost forced success. So I went off the rails, drank like crazy, chased girls, and didn't go to class, you know? So
they were super strict in every facet kind of growing up? Yeah. I said it all the time, man. Kids are going to have to blow off steam at some point. And if you don't let them, give them a release valve along the way, once they get out on their own, it's over. Yeah. They're going to go nuts.
And no blame on my parents, right? You know, being a parent, you're just kind of learning as you go, right?
No rule book.
Exactly. But my older sister, so she dropped out of high school, married the neighbor boy, and enlisted in the Army, got her GED and enlisted in the Army at like 18. I went to college, dropped out, and then enlisted in the Army. My brother went to college, dropped out, and enlisted in the Army. So there's a theme there that we all kind of went down that path. But fortunately, we all ended up being pretty successful.
Nice.
But yeah, so after college, I went home, worked for my dad for about 6 months. He owned like a car magazine. And
sweet.
I was going nowhere with my life, man. I was just drinking, partying, you know, barely even showing up on time to my minimum wage job with my dad. And then just got to a point where I was like, what am I doing? Like, I knew I was more capable than what I was putting out. So I went to the Marine recruiter, talked to them, and learned very quickly that you don't get to pick your job when you enlist in the Marines. So I didn't really want that. I knew I wanted to do something that I was going to be proud of, and I didn't want to roll the dice of not having a guaranteed job. So next door was the Army recruiter, as most are, and they took the ASVAB, did really well on it. They were like, okay, you can do whatever you want based on your scores. And to make a long story short, I initially was going to do something called high school to flight school, which is where you enlisted in the Army and you get the opportunity to go become a warrant officer after basic training and go to flight school.
Okay.
However, that process was taking a long time. And as I said before, I was kind of like going nowhere with my life and just running in circles. So I was like, all right, like, what can I do? what's the alternative, right? And
Yeah.
recruiters showed me that SF video, Special Forces video, dudes like, coming out of swamps all camoed up with their guns, and I was like, hell yeah, that is exactly what I want to do. Sign me up for that.
Sexy.
And, yeah, it was just, America, right?
No doubt.
He was very clear that, like, all right, man, just so you know, like, not many people pass this. This is like a ticket to go try out for Special Forces. It does not guarantee it, right? If you fail, you're going to go wherever the Army needs you. So you're rolling the dice by doing that. And
Yep.
I'm young, dumb, and stubborn, and I was like, let's go, man. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the nexus of me joining the Army.
And is there a specific program for that? A name
It's
for
called
that,
the 18
program?
X-ray program.
Okay.
Yeah. So essentially, you go to infantry basic training at Fort Benning, and AIT. So it's like I don't remember the timeline, 12 weeks, maybe something like that. And
Okay.
then after that, you go to airborne school, still at Fort Benning, and then you go straight to Fort Bragg, and you get to go to selection.
Okay.
Essentially. Yeah.
And then how was basic training for you?
It was as expected, I would say. There was
Are you in
no
phenomenal shape at this point? Sorry,
I was. Yeah.
Okay.
So oh yeah, a little backstory. So in college, I actually did the ROTC program, the Army ROTC program. So that's kind of what planted the seed of the Army in my mind. It wasn't really like my older sister being in, it was more that.
Okay.
And so I knew like the PT test, and I knew like what it took to be a good soldier. And I was fit, like I was good at the ROTC piece. I was bad at college, I was good at ROTC. So yeah, I went in like running. I was a good runner, and I went in ready to go. So that helped me a lot. Basic was pretty chill. I mean, you got the funny basic stories of like we'd hide dip in like the ceiling panels, and like figure out ways to go take out the trash so a buddy could drop off cans of dip and stuff like that. But other than that, pretty low drama. Yeah.
You always the best shoulders are shrouded on the line between criminal and
Dude, it's
good
so
guy,
true.
just like cops, man.
Yep. Work in the gray area, right?
Yeah, you have to be, man. There's no way. You can't be good guy, and you're going to be adept at those jobs, man, as far as I'm concerned.
I know, it's so true. You got to be able to think outside the box and like kind of operate in that gray area in the right ways, right? Without crossing too many lines.
Exactly. At least don't get caught doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that's the key. That is definitely the key.
100%. So after basic now, you go to you're over to Bragg?
Yep. So airborne school was just same, pretty uneventful. I was scared shitless to jump out of an airplane the first time. Super nervous. Yeah.
Afraid of heights?
I'm not really afraid of heights. It was more just like so many things can go wrong,
Oh, yeah.
And then you're just kind of, I don't know, you're just kind of blowing in the wind and hoping everything goes right type of thing. So that was the biggest reason. It was just shit. Okay, hopefully my parachute opens. Hopefully I land right and don't break my knees, You only
have so much control up there.
Yeah, exactly. And a little insight on airborne for people that don't know, like it is not, when you land, it is not glamorous. It is like hitting like a bag of rocks. This is like static line jumping, not Halo free fall. Right. Like you just land like a sack of rocks in the last 5 seconds. You're just like, oh shit. And then boom. And you're like, all right, I'm okay. We're good. And you move on. So
nice.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's like broken legs all over the place with static line jumping.
Yeah.
Because what, you're not able to flare the parachute at the end? Is that why? Okay.
You have like super limited control. Like there are risers that you can pull on, but it's pretty limited how much you control. And then you're not flaring at the end. You're just bracing for impact essentially. There's something called a PLF, parachute landing fall, and there's like a specific way that you're supposed to fall so that you don't break your legs and everything and ankles. So but airborne school, it was one of those things like, and the whole Q course, the whole Special Forces pipeline, it's like one of those things that when you're in it, everybody's kind of in the same situation and sucking, right? So you just do it. You're just like, all right, cool. You don't want to do it, but you're going to do it,
Yeah. It's got to be some shared, the fact that you guys are all going through the same stuff, it's got to be one of the things that carries you through, because you're looking at the other
100%.
guys, and it's not like anyone else is having it any easier. Like, sucks balls for them, too. Let's just do it.
Yep. And that's one of the best pieces of advice I can give to, like, younger people who are trying to go to, like, a selection or something is, like, dude, there's somebody next to you sucking just as bad, right? Like, so if they're doing it, you can do it. Like, and that mentality helped me so much especially through selection. Like, all right, he's still standing, I'm still standing. We got this, you know?
Yeah, shared misery is a beautiful thing.
Exactly. Goes a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so as you're going through the course, how are you finding it?
So challenging for sure, especially as an 18 X-ray, because some people, when they go into selection or the Special Forces pipeline, they are prior service. So they were already in the infantry for a couple of years, you know, had a deployment or two. And we were basically fresh out of basic training. So there's portions of the course, and I'll backtrack to selection a little bit, but there's portions of the course where it's like you're forced to be in leadership roles. And I'm in charge of like a staff sergeant who's a former Ranger Battalion guy, you know, and I'm a private first class with 6 months in the Army, you know, and I'm like, how am I supposed to tell this dude what to do? And I'm going to look like an idiot no matter what. So that was a big hurdle that I had to overcome as an 18 X-ray. Was that like, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome, because I kind of was an imposter compared to them, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the most challenging, like, mental aspect of the Q course, was just gaining the confidence in myself to step into those leadership roles and like take charge when I'm supposed to be in charge.
And then say you're supervising that guy, for instance, are they kind of bucking up against you guys, or do they know that, you know,
there were some
guys that there were? So
it was a dynamic. Yeah,
okay.
It was a dynamic. There were some that were super down to earth, super relaxed, super chill, and kind of humbled themselves as, you know, and realized we're all in this together. We're all kind of students together. But then there were some that, you know, they had the chip on their shoulder and they were like, why do you deserve to be here? You know, when I've already done all of this, which I understand, you know, but there was definitely,
you could have done the same thing.
Right. True.
Yeah.
So there was definitely that dynamic for sure.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. Yeah. All right. So as you going through, is there any, you know, crazy stories that, you know, kind of shown resilience or anything in, you know, particular?
So not at this point, because I'm still like in the party mode. I was 21, 22 through the Q course. So I just turned 21, and I was the guy that, well, me and my friends, a lot of us were the guys that were able to like go out drinking until 2 a.m. and then show up at 6 a.m. and crush a 12-minute 2-mile run, you know?
Nice.
Like that was kind of the lifestyle we had then. So we were work hard, play hard was the mentality, and we were definitely pushing the limit of that. Enough that we felt like it was responsible-ish, because we were still, you know, still showing
you're
up,
upright and
still
doing good.
Performing, still passing our tests and everything we needed to. But looking back on it, man, like there's no way, you know, I could handle that now, obviously.
No, forget it now.
Yeah, no way. But there were a couple, like, a lot of challenges as far as like the pressure of the Q course, because it's a course that's designed where every single day you're getting tested on something in certain phases. So like during the 18 Charlie course, which is the demolitions engineer course, there's every single day you have to meet a certain standard, or else you could get recycled into the next class. So it's very like you have to be on it every single day, and there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. Fortunately, I didn't have any mental health issues or anything at that point. I was still, you know, just gung-ho and young. So that didn't manifest negatively in any way for me.
Okay.
And I was one of the lucky few that did not recycle throughout the Q course. So that also helped as well. I didn't have to deal with
amazing.
that. Yeah.
So the entirety of the Q course from start to finish is how long?
So it's about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half. Yeah.
So as you're going through it, you're getting blocks of instruction.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let me just I'll give you the overview, because it's kind of it's basically phases. So you start with SFAS, which is selection, and that's basically your tryout to get into the pipeline, to get into the core, the training. And it's 3 weeks. The first week is like a gate week where they're testing your physical ability, right? You're doing runs, rucks, times, obstacle courses. You do psych tests, kind of all of those basic things to make sure, you know, you got what it takes physically, mentally, all of that. Then the week 2 is land nav, and it's called the STAR course. And it's called the STAR course because you have to find 4 points, but each point, you don't go in a certain order. So basically when you get to a point, they'll give you your next point. So you can't plan your entire route. And you basically jump up and down the course. That's why it's called the STAR course, because you can't just go linearly in a square, you know.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
but that's at night. So that's like I think you have 12 hours to find 4 points. Starts at like midnight, and you're carrying a 50-pound rucksack and just out there in the woods by yourself figuring it out.
Okay.
And then week 3 is team week, and that's where you get to. I don't know if like 3 Weeks in Hell is a documentary on it, but there's like apparatuses that basically, so think you'll get like a telephone pole or a couple telephone poles, and your whole team has to move them like 8 miles or something. And
Okay.
you have to figure out how to strap them together, how to carry them, you know, the most efficiently so that not every person's getting burnt out. And that's
Right.
where you get put in charge too. So you get put in charge of one event in team week, and that's where they're looking like, hey, how does this young 21-year-old do when he's telling officers and NCOs, you know, how to do something. So that's one of those moments that I talk about where I was like, I mean, I did it, right? But I was not confident. And if I looked confident, I was definitely hiding it well. But
most guys probably do. I mean, how many guys
Yeah.
are truly that confident at that point?
I mean, honestly, yeah, because you're all kind of in student mode, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's 3 weeks. And then after selection for the lower enlisted guys, so under the guys that aren't sergeants and above, they go to, well, back then it was something called CLT, Combat Leaders Training, I believe. And that was like another 3-week smoke fest, masked as a leadership school.
Okay.
So I remember we had to do like literally like a mile of burpee long jumps. Like that was one day in that. Yeah. So just stuff like that, man. Just stupid, like, you know, smoke fest type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't learn too much leadership, but whatever. You learn
Exactly.
you learn grit, I guess.
Yeah, and let it survive.
Yeah. Then after that, when I went through, it was language school. So everybody gets a language in Special Forces. Mine was Korean. So it was a 6-month. Yeah. So it was like learning Transformers language, man. Like,
Yeah. Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
what is
How
happening?
do you do that, brother? That's
So
crazy.
But it's cool because our instructor was a Korean lady. Like it was, and you get like immersed in it. It's 9 to 5. So you're legit like in school for 6 months every single day learning Korean. And by the end of it, you have like basic proficiency, you know, like
Really?
if I got dropped off in South Korea, I could get around type of thing, you know?
That's amazing.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. But language school that was, I would say, the easiest part of the course just because you're on a 9 to 5 and, you know, you get weekends off. So it wasn't like as intense, I guess.
Yeah. Physically, it's not a physically demanding portion.
Right. So it was just all, educational, and you're kind of in school.
Do you lose a lot of guys in that? I'm curious as to...
Not really.
No?
Some guys,
Okay.
a few guys will like recycle, but I don't remember losing anybody in language school.
Okay.
I would say if anybody gets lost in language school, it's because they did something stupid outside of class, you know, like got a
Gotcha.
DUI or did something
Okay.
like that.
Right.
But no, the retention's pretty good in language school because it's a long time to get where you need to be, you know.
Okay. So let me ask you this, like what level of proficiency are you expected to be at in Korean?
So,
Like how do they test you?
So it's called a DLPT or OPI. I forget what it stands. Oral proficiency something. So basically, you get in a phone booth and you get on the phone with somebody who's somewhere else testing you who speaks Korean, and they're asking you basic questions like, "What's your name? Where did you grow up? You know, explain to me like whatever your favorite food, stuff like that."
Right.
And then it's basically tiered to, if you pass the basic questions, like then they'll get into some more complex questions, and they keep going until you're at a point where you're like, I don't know what you just said, you know, or I can't answer that, or they can tell that you're just kind of, you know, BSing your way through it.
Yep.
And then based on where you get to in the test, that ends up being like your proficiency grade. So
Gotcha.
a 1-1 is like the standard. It's like you have to get a 1-1 to pass language school, and that's essentially what I just explained, like the basic proficiency. So I ended up getting a 1+, which is just above a 1-1. It's not like anything phenomenal or anything, but but it was cool. It was cool to see like how you can walk in day one, right, and look at these just symbols. They're not even not even
like
letters.
hieroglyphics to you.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then 6 months later, you're pretty confident in what you've learned. So,
That's amazing to me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see it. And then after language school, we moved into SUT, which is Small Unit Tactics. And the best way to describe that is the Special Forces version of Ranger School. So I think it was, don't quote me on this, I think it was 12 weeks. I might be butchering that, but maybe not that long. But anyways, so that's where you're out in the woods. You're learning how to do basic patrols, work as a squad. And then that is also the leadership opportunities where you'll get put in charge. You have to pass your patrols, meaning you'll set up an ambush and do that stuff, and you end up being like the squad leader, and you have to dictate how everything goes, basically.
Okay.
Sprinkled in with a lot of smoking in there
Oh
too.
yeah.
Oh yeah. The cadre they get loaded down with these like arty simulators, like artillery simulators.
Yep.
And they're like toys to them. Like they
Really?
just throw them left and right. Some dude looks like he's falling asleep. They'll just throw one right next to his ear, you know?
Cool.
And,
God.
yeah. So it was just, I mean, yeah, you learn a lot of character, but
Yeah.
SUT was challenging because of that, though, because of the leadership aspect.
Okay.
That's the theme with me through the Q course, was just the leadership.
Makes
stuff.
sense. Hey, leadership
Yeah.
is not this thing you just snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're this leader.
For sure.
I mean, there's so
Especially as
much
a
to learn.
21-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
You
22.
don't have that much
actually.
life experience here.
Right.
It's different if you were to do it right now after all these years of experience. So much
Exactly.
easier. But at that point, there's so much you don't know that you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you're operating around dudes who have been doing it for a long time. So you're just like,
Exactly.
who am I? But
Yeah.
here we go. So
Yeah.
yeah. So SUT actually, I met my wife before SUT at the end of language school. We were so SUT you don't get your phone or anything. So we were literally like writing snail mail letters to each other.
Wow.
And it's kind of cool because we still have them to look back on and be like,
That's pretty
she
funny.
she always throws it at me though, like, look how much you loved me back then. Get out of here. Get out.
That's great. You should have wrote him in Korean.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So where is this now physically that you guys met? What state are you
So
in?
we met at North Carolina, Fort Bragg.
Okay.
So she
so
was
this
going,
is all Fort Bragg. Okay.
Yep. So the whole pipeline is at Fort Bragg. She was at East Carolina University. She was actually in ROTC, so she was going to be an officer the next year, and I'm this little private first class,
That's pretty funny.
But we'll get to that story a little later because it's kind of funny
Yeah.
how everything happened. But after SUT, we had Christmas break, so we got to have some time there, and then SEER school was after that. Can't get too much into SEER school, but you learn how to.
How was it though? One of the toughest things you've ever done?
It really is one of those courses. I know that everybody says it, but it really is one of those that I would never ever want to do it again. But I'm so grateful I got to do it.
Okay.
Because you
Makes
learn
sense.
so much, and that you want to see 100 badass dudes start crying. Go to a SEER school graduation, you just can't help it, man. It just happens because you so much emotions while being, a captive for a couple days, and then you get freed, and you're just like, man, this is.
Yeah, we can only
this is
imagine.
amazing.
If they're trying to keep it as realistic as possible,
Yeah,
they're essentially almost torturing you guys. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
you can't talk about it, but if it's going to be realistic, it's going to be hard as shit. So I can't imagine what you guys
Yeah.
went through.
yeah. You learn a lot about yourself. I'll say that for sure.
I'm sure.
Yep.
So once you get done with SEER school, that's it. The course is concluded, and
No, man. So then you go into your MOS. So there's two more phases. So you go into MOS phase. So there's 18 Bravo, which is the weapons guy, 18 Charlie, which is what I did, which is engineer, which demo/construction. And then 18 Delta is medic, and 18 Echo is communications. So
Okay.
I was an 18 Charlie, so the first couple weeks is you learn basic construction. You learn how to do some electrical wiring, some masonry, things like that. Because when you're deployed with the team, the 18 Charlie is the guy that's the camp boss, basically. If the
Okay.
generator goes down, it's the 18 Charlie's job to fix it and figure out what needs to be done to get it back up. So that's that portion.
I'm sorry to talk, but can you kind of explain? We didn't talk about this. The mission of the Green Beret, because it's very different than a lot of other units. What you guys do as far as going into, you explain it.
Absolutely, and it's actually, I feel like it's been misrepresented a lot because of Afghanistan and Iraq, right? A lot of people picture Green Berets as just being the direct action guys, you know, kicking in doors and stuff like that. But really the mission, the overall mission and what we're experts in is unconventional warfare, meaning like we can go behind enemy lines, work with a partner force, train that partner force up, and multiply our efforts into that partner force and enable them to go take it to the enemy or do whatever they need to do, right, and conduct their missions. So that's really the core mission of a Green Beret, is being able to advise, assist, and really adapt into different cultures and put your influence into a team or a command somewhere else and have your influence be multiplied through that command and through their efforts. So that's the core mission of it. Yeah.
And you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, are the only group in the military that works with like indigenous forces and stuff like that to help them up become force multipliers, correct? Like no one else does this, correct?
To that extent, yes. I know MARSOC does have that mission as well a little bit. So they're bleeding into that space a little bit. And there was a lot of time in Afghanistan and stuff where there were a lot of like partner enabled operations, even with Ranger Battalion and other SOF units, but not to the extent of like the core mission of what we do as Green Berets, right? It wasn't like we're going into a country where nobody knows we're there type of thing,
right?
And doing our job behind the scenes and making it happen. That's really the core. That's what Green Berets do that nobody else does.
Yeah, it's so impressive to me what you guys do.
Yeah,
so,
and that's
so unique.
Right, it is. And that's the cool thing about how a team is structured is like a 12-man team can go operate, you know, independently in austere conditions with minimal resources and make it happen. It's pretty cool to see everything come together like that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
All right, so sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good. So the 18 Charlie course, that's where it was really fun because you're learning demo, right? You get to blow stuff up. You get to learn like the surgical side of demo, which I'm sure you've been exposed to with breaching and stuff. Like you get to learn just how versatile demolitions are, right? Like you can blow a huge ditch in a huge area, or you can take a block of C4 and like cut something, a piece of metal exactly how you want to cut it, just with an explosive. Like, so that part was really cool. Learn a lot of them. You learn all the math behind it, and how to figure out how much explosives you need, when you need it, where to place it, all that stuff. So that course was definitely challenging because that was the time where you could fail any day, right? That was really? Definitely where the pressure was on. But that was, I would say that is almost a transition point in the pipeline where the cadre become a lot more professional. Not that they're not professional before, but a lot more like, okay, now we're training you because we see that you're probably going to make it to an ODA, to a team. Right. So we now see you as our future teammates, right? So we want you to be as competent as possible. So there's a big shift, at least I saw a big shift or felt a big shift at that point, where it's kind of like, all right, you're getting to the end of the pipeline. Now let's invest in you. Like we're done breaking you down. Now let's kind of build you up and make you into a Green Beret.
Yeah, you're one of us, essentially.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. And then after the Charlie course, the last thing is Robin Sage. And Robin Sage is where all the different jobs come together, and you're essentially put on a training ODA. Like the officers come together, so you operate as an ODA, and you get indigenous forces, which are obviously like role players, but get indigenous forces. There's a whole like, they call it Pineland. It's a whole made up country in North Carolina, and there's actors and everything. So it's like a huge exercise. And you're out there for 3 weeks, I think. And that's when you're doing it. You're doing your job. You're doing what would be expected of an ODA, of a team. So they even put in scenarios where you're using your language and things like that. So you'll have to use Korean or whatever your language was. And yeah, it's testing the full pipeline, everything you've learned to this point. Let's see how you retained it. Let's see how you put it into action and see how you work together as a team. So, and then that's it. And then if you pass everything well, you get to throw your Green Beret on and feel really, really cool until you get to a team.
And then you realize you're not.
Then you're humbled. Yeah. Then you're humbled
this
again.
young dude who knows nothing again.
Yep. Then you're the new guy again, man. It's
got to happen over and over and over throughout your career where
you
accomplish this, but then your next step, you're down here because everyone else knows a ton more than you.
It really did. Yeah. Especially with my career progression, right? Like I did SF, was there. So I was on a team for 3 years. Just
so when did
summarize.
you graduate? What year?
So 2012, June 2012. Yeah. And then in group, so I went to Okinawa, Japan. So that's where 1st Special Forces Group, 1st Battalion is out there. So I mentioned my wife previously. She was commissioning about 6 months after I graduated. So we got married the day after I graduated the Q course because I knew I was going to Okinawa. So that was our only chance to get us stationed together, is if we were in the Married Army Couples Program is what it's called. And that's when they like try to get you stationed together. So so 6 months goes by. She got orders to Fort Benning, Georgia. So we were like, sweet, we're going to be on the other side of the world for the next 3 years, whatever. But we pulled some strings. Her dad was high up, and we were able to get her orders to Oki. Yeah, that's how it works, man. That's how the military world works. But
that's how the world works.
It worked out, man. And she got out to Okinawa, and man, what an incredible experience! Like that.
Oh, really?
Our apartment in Okinawa was literally on the beach, probably like the 5th story, looking out on the beach, and we had F-18s flying over our apartment low level on their approach almost every single day. Like it was the coolest experience ever, man. Just being like America every day. You know? I
can imagine. And Japan itself is such a beautiful place to be.
It really is.
It's on my bucket, or my wife's and I bucket list to travel to.
Yeah.
So now how old are you at this point?
So I was 23 when I got to group.
So 23 Green Beret stationed in Japan. So not a bad life going on right now.
No, it was a good time. And I was probably off island, off of Okinawa more than I was there, just because deployments and stuff. We did 3 trips to the Philippines, one of them being like a combat 6-monther. The other ones were just training trips. We did one to Nepal, which was amazing. We got to do Everest Base Camp while I was like in the Army getting paid for it. So it was pretty awesome. And then a couple smaller trips like Australia and stuff like that. But my son was born in 2014, and I deployed to the Philippines for that 6-monther like 3 weeks after he was born. Wow. And that's when throughout that deployment, I kind of realized like if I stay in this SF lifestyle for, the next 20 years, whatever, 15 years, like probably not going to be the best dad, probably not going to win records for being the best dad. Right. So that's during that deployment is when I looked at the flight school option. Partially because I already had that in the back of my mind from like when I was going to do it before I even joined as a Green Beret. And then partially because career progression, right? I'd become a warrant officer. So I would be out of the enlisted ranks, become a warrant officer, raise the pay scale, retire as a W4, W5, whatever. And then also you get your pilot's license. So if I got out of the military or when I got out of the military, I'd be able to go fly, and I'd have a really transferable skill set that kind of set me up for life. So those are kind of the key factors that went into that. But dropped my packet in 2000, during that deployment, and then 2015 went to flight school, good old Fort Rucker, Alabama.
So let me ask you this: when you are leaving, how does that work as far as the dynamics of relationships in Green Berets to them knowing that you want to leave and go to flight school?
Yeah, so I got a lot of shit, but it was like brotherly love shit.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Not
nobody
hatred
was,
or anything?
No, there was nobody that was like had animosity. They were honestly like a lot more supportive than I thought they would be, because I was pretty scared to bring that up, right? To like my team sergeant major. I was like, how are they going to feel about this? But they gave me shit. They're like, okay, quitter, that type of thing. But it was more like a little bro type of shit, not like
good.
We actually are going to punish you for trying to further your career and make this life decision. So
because I've heard like horror stories, bro, both military and cops, like true hatred coming down after guys realized that this it's been old guys wanted to transfer to something else or just leave entirely. Like the amount of vitriol aimed towards these guys is mind-boggling to me.
I know, me too. I think it's a maturity thing, right? I think it could have
100%.
gone either way, right? If I had a old angry team sergeant or team, sergeant major, it would have been a different story. But I was pretty fortunate to have really, really grounded leaders in my life at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a true leader, how can you not want for the betterment of your,
Right.
your underlings. It
Right.
makes no sense to me otherwise. Unless you're a miserable guy, you're hating your life, unhealed,
Exactly.
then yeah, you're going to transfer and project all that onto him. So,
Yep.
unfortunately, that's
100%.
life.
And I'm sure you've seen that time and time again, because I have multiple times. Luckily, it didn't happen to me in this instance, but definitely seen that over and over again.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's sometimes more stress internally than there is externally.
Right.
There's so much external stress that the fact that you can even say that is insane, but it's the truth, and it's disgusting to see.
It really is. Yeah. And it's immaturity, man. It's immaturity, jealousy, insecurity, whatever you want to call it. It's projecting that out in a negative way.
100%.
Yeah. So I want to get into the mental health stuff because
Absolutely.
I know that's my mission and that's your mission. So
Yep.
when I go to flight school, the first probably year was pretty awesome. Like I was having a good time.
Okay.
I will
and where are
say-
you geographically?
So this is Fort Rucker, Alabama.
Okay.
So my wife got orders actually to Benning again. So she went to Fort Benning, I went to Fort Rucker. So we were separated by, I think it's like a 3-hour drive. So I would go there on weekends
Something like
and
that.
stuff.
Used to live in
So-
Atlanta. Yep.
Yeah, so it wasn't too bad. It was doable. But she, like my son stayed with her and everything. So we were like, it's almost like a divorced couple, Like,
Yeah,
hey, I'll
exactly.
see you on the weekends. But that didn't last too long. Her unit actually got disbanded at Fort Benning, which was just fortunate timing. So she was able to get orders to Fort Rucker, I think
sweet.
after about 6 months of being separated. So
Okay.
she got back to Rucker. I get done with my initial school is Warrant Officer Candidate School, and it's just another check the block school in my opinion. I know there's a lot of people that need it, right? Like a lot of people
Yeah.
get a lot out of it, but where I was coming from in SF, like I didn't get anything
Yeah.
out of it. It was
Yeah, I
just
can
kind of like,
imagine.
all right, let's go through the motions and get through it.
Yep.
And then after that, you start your ground school, which is you're learning aerodynamics, weather, all those basic like aviation knowledge, airspace, stuff like that. And that's really like classroom. It's classroom. It's Army test, which means that if you study, you're going to pass. Like as long
Okay.
they kind of foot stomp on what you need to know type of thing.
Yep.
So you get through that. And this is about the time when my wife got over there. And my wife got pregnant. My daughter was born in May of 2016. And at this point, I had started primary school, which is when you start flying, you learn the basic aircraft. You start in a basic aircraft, learn how to hover, learn how to, fly around the traffic pattern and do that, basically safely operate a helicopter. And I chose not to take paternity leave. I chose to continue going. It was only 10 days at that time, but still, I was like, if I take 10 days off, I'm going to get rolled back a class, and who knows how long it will be until I get into another class because all the classes were full. So it was like literally something that could have set me back like 6 months, and I was not ready to do that. I was just ready to get done with flight school, get to the
Hell
unit,
yeah.
and actually start deploying, right, and doing my job.
Yeah.
So looking back on it, though, that was a bad decision because my daughter was, she was a tough baby. She didn't sleep well, right? She was, my son was colicky, and then my daughter was she was one of those babies that, how they say cry it out? Like, if we put her in the room to cry it out, 2 hours later, she'd still be crying. And we're like, this doesn't work. So, we were pulling our hair out, both stressed out, and just grinding, man, just kind of like neglecting any like emotional side or mental health side because to be fair, like I had never experienced anything mental health related, right? Until one day in flight school, I'm sitting in the Black Hawk course and I'm learning about the Black Hawk engine, and out of nowhere, I just get punched in the face with this suicidal thought and it wasn't just a thought, it was like a vision. Like it was me driving into a telephone pole on my way home that day. And it was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced because, like I said, I had never experienced anything like that before in my life ever. So I didn't know what was wrong. I didn't know how to respond to it, and I didn't know how to fix it.
Yeah,
so it
course.
put me in this just like fix it. I have to fix this mode. And I started obsessing over why this was happening, which led to this just endless suicidal thought loop. And it was just so consuming that like it felt like this was my only option, right? It felt like these are never going to stop, and I have to, like, this is what it's going to end up doing, right? I'm going to end up taking my life because I don't know how to get out of this. And throughout that time, so there was one day I was driving home from the flight line, and I drove by the chapel, and I was so scared to go home that like something in my head was just telling me, go to the chaplain, go talk to the chaplain. Mm-hmm. So I kind of viewed it as like a low threat way to, tell somebody, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
And I didn't do it at first. I drove past and I kept driving. And I was going off post and I was just scared, man. I was scared to go home. So I flipped a bitch, turned around and drove to the chaplain. And I went in there and told him what's going on. Told him, I'm just having these scary thoughts. I don't know what to do. I can't control them. I don't want them here, but they're happening, right? And unfortunately, he had to take me to behavioral health because that's like their protocol, right? Somebody has self-harm, like they have to take them, because it's a liability. It's you don't know. So
yeah, absolutely.
So I didn't want that to happen though, because that's the reason I went to the chaplain, right? Is I was trying to avoid that, but I end up getting driven to behavioral health by the chaplain. And I fill out this suicide questionnaire in the waiting room. It's like questions like, do you have thoughts of hurting yourself? Yes, right. Do you have thoughts of hurting others? No. Have you made plans to hurt yourself? No. Do you want to hurt yourself? No. So like most of my answers were no, but I was still like, I was still dealing with it. Right.
Yeah.
So
does your wife know at this point anything going on?
So she knew. Yeah. So she knew that I went to the chaplain.
But she knows that you've been having these thoughts.
So, yes. And the reason she found out is pretty messed up. There was one night where I was laying in bed, and I keep my pistol and my fingerprint safe next to my bed. And that was the thought that kept coming, right? When I was putting my head on the pillow was just grab your gun and do it. And one night before bed, I asked her to get my pistol, take it apart, and hide the components from me. And that was kind of how she found out. So, yeah. And it was, I think she just didn't know how to handle it. She didn't.
It's like fucking 0 to 100.
Yeah, man. And I was always the protector, right? I was always the dude that had everything put together. And like, if she had a problem, I would jump in and help, right? She never had to really like step in and do that for me. So
plus, there's been like no traumatic event that suddenly catapulted you to this.
Right.
It's kind of out of the blue for her. It's out of the blue for you.
Yeah,
like it's
absolutely.
amazing to me that these thoughts just started getting produced in your head.
I know, and I didn't know at the time like why, but looking back on it, it was just so many factors of stress that just compounded, right? And I think it just all came crashing down, hammering down on me, and my mind was just telling me to slow down, and I think that's what happened. So that's how she found out. Ironically, we didn't really talk about it too much after that. I think in her mind, I think it was like because I hadn't talked about it prior or after, it was like a one and done thing, right? It was just a moment of weakness. So and to be fair, she was full time. She was active duty still, taking kids to daycare and shuttling everybody around and dealing with their own stuff. So we were kind of living our own silos there. Yeah. So the chaplain thing. So I'm at behavioral health, and they take me back to the clinic, and I talk to a clinician, and she reads through the questionnaire, literally line by line, just rereads the questions, and her synopsis at the end was, "I think you're just going through something temporary. I think you're going to be fine. You're fine to continue training. Basically, come back if you need us," type of thing. And in my mind, I was
That's all they offered, huh?
Yeah. And
wow.
And in retrospect, I think they were trying to do me a favor by keeping me in training. But in my mind, I was like, come on, guys. Like, I'm a Green Beret. I would not turn myself in to behavioral health for suicidal thoughts if this was not a big deal.
Exactly.
You know, like I know what's at stake. I know the cost.
Yeah.
And I'm still did this, right? I mean, granted, I went to the chaplain, but you get the drift,
Yeah,
right? Like,
I mean, I don't know how they can read between the lines. Yeah, a guy of your stature, of your career path, of your successes, to admit it to anyone,
right?
Says fucking volumes, man. It's not just something you just. I say to people, if you ask a guy how he's doing, he's like, "I'm all right." Fucking start talking to that man. That's
exactly.
You saying, "I'm all right," not "I'm good, man." No, it's not that. Like you can't just blow that off.
I agree. So that kind of gave me a really bad taste of behavioral health, right? And that threw that option off the table. Like I was like, screw that. I'm never going back to behavioral health. Like, they're not going to do anything for me. And if I do, like, then my career's on the line, right? And I don't want to risk that again. Like this was kind of like my Hail Mary shot to see what happens, right? So this continues, and I'm just in this death spiral, if you will, throughout flight school. I get to my unit, and it was kind of one of those things that I kept trying to progress my way out of it, kept trying to find that next goalpost and hope that would make everything better, right? So that was kind of my way of coping. I did try meditation, journaling, breath work, you know, all of the above, everything that if you Google what to do when you're depressed, I tried it all, right? Yeah. But I was in the storm, man, so nothing was working. Nothing was moving the needle, you know, and it was just getting more and more frustrating because nothing was working, and I didn't have an answer for it. So I graduate flight school. I graduated somehow as a distinguished honor graduate too, which says volumes to this. The reason I bring that up is that speaks volumes to the people that can be suffering, right? You can be looking at a high-performing stud on the outside, and they could still be going through something. That doesn't mean they are, but like that's who I was, right? If I had made that fatal decision, everybody would have looked and been like, what the hell? Like, he was crushing it, you know? Like, everything looked great. And I projected that really well. I wore the masks so well, man. So well throughout the story. And that's kind of the theme. But I graduate flight school. I go to 3rd Combat Aviation Brigade, which is in Savannah, Georgia. And I picked Savannah because I knew the unit was deploying pretty quickly. And when you're a new aviator, a new pilot, like combat or hours in general, flight hours is like golden, because the faster you get them, the faster you progress into the senior stages of being a pilot, because nobody wants to be a new guy forever, right? Right. So go to Afghanistan. This was a 9-month trip. And it continued throughout that deployment. Like I'm not kidding when I say when we flew with the doors off in the Black Hawk, it took everything to not jump out of the helicopter. As insane as that sounds, like it took everything, man. And it was like, I literally think the thing that kept me alive was, well, 1, my kids, right? And then 2, just I knew if I did something that I had a crew behind me and I had a co-pilot next to me that were relying on me. And that's like what kept me from doing it.
Hey, whatever the fuck it takes.
So it was, and here's another, and I'm unloading this because I think it's important to not hide what happened, right? And to show people that like this shit's serious. Like I was at the point in Afghanistan, and I told Doug this when I went on his podcast. You're only the second person I've told this, but on that deployment, we carried a pistol, right? Like that was our sidearm. I was at the point where I was more scared that I was going to take my life by carrying a loaded pistol than I was of anything happening with enemy related at all. So I unloaded my pistol and carried an empty magazine, an empty pistol around Afghanistan for 9 months. And it was one of the most like shameful decisions that I ever made. But now looking back on it, like it was probably one of the most courageous decisions, as ironic as that is, you know?
Do you think had you not done so that you would have killed yourself?
I don't know, man. I don't know if it would just, the thoughts would have been that much worse. I don't know, to be honest.
And you're able to appear 100% highly functioning, nothing's going on, no one would have had a clue.
Nobody knew, man. I've had multiple people who I served with come out of the woodworks and just be like, dude, I wish you told me. I had no idea. And I'm like, that's on me, man, not on you, you know? Like, it's 100% on me. So even during that deployment, I made pilot in command, which is when you you basically get the keys to the aircraft, and now you're in charge of the helicopter. So I made pilot in command on that deployment. And then at the end of that deployment, I was so fed up with the military. I was blaming a lot of this on the military, right? Like, I was in a fairly toxic unit. I will say that. Like, not a lot of people were, the morale was not high, among everybody. And I wasn't helping with that, because I wasn't in the right space either. But I was at the point where it was like, I'm getting out of the Army or I'm going to the 160th. Like, so I'm going to try out for the 160th. If I don't make it, I'm getting out of the Army and I'm done. And fortunately, I dropped my packet. So you have to have 500 flight hours and be a pilot in command before you can go to the 160th.
Okay.
So I dropped my flight packet, or my 160th packet, and at the end of the deployment, I got a date, an invitation to go assess about 2 months after I got back from Afghanistan. So, which worked out great because I was in good deployment shape. I was very proficient in the aircraft from just being in it consistently every single day. And yeah, I went to assess 2 months after getting home in August of 2018.
Okay. And now the reason why you would have left the Army is only because the toxicity of the unit that you were currently attached to. Okay. Yeah,
it was that, and it was also we didn't fly the mission that I wanted to fly in Afghanistan. Like, it was a lot of going from airfield to airfield, dropping people off and equipment. We weren't really doing the sexy like infills and stuff like that I wanted to do. So it wasn't as fulfilling as I wanted it to be. It was still cool. Like, don't get me wrong, right? I still got to fly a Black Hawk. Like, it was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And still got to see the beautiful mountains and all of that. So I don't want to paint it all as doom and gloom, but like, my morale was at the point where I was like, I'm not really enjoying this.
The headspace
it's taking a toll on everything. And yeah. So backtrack a little bit. During that deployment, there was one night where we were going over a mountain range in Afghanistan, and we had to do a pretty steep descent. I think it was like I don't remember exactly, 3,000 foot descent or something like that. Pretty rapid. And if you've been on an airplane, you Valsalva, you plug your nose, blow your ears out a little bit to kind of relieve the pressure. Yep. And when I did that, I wasn't on the flight controls, so the other guy was flying, but I did it. I got this head over heels vertigo sensation, and I was like, shit, like, I think I, ruptured my eardrum or something. So get back from that flight, and I get my ears checked out, and the initial thing was, hey, you ruptured your eardrum. And I was like, okay, that makes sense, because I was a little dizzy and everything. And then the next day I get it checked out by the flight doc, and he's like, your ears are fine. I'm like, what the hell? That doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
But that led into continuous dizzy spells for the rest of the deployment, even though my ears were fine. And I started having these, like, just off, the world felt off kilter. Like, the world felt like it was on the curve of a NASCAR track all the time. Like, I just felt like, just like walking straight was hard, which is crazy to say. But same thing, man. I didn't tell anybody because at this point I was like, we already checked my ears out. I'm good, right? This isn't any big deal. It didn't happen in the aircraft. I don't know, adrenaline or what, but but that continued. So that continued throughout my 160th assessment. Passed assessment, got picked up, and then I was told I was going back to 3rd Battalion in Savannah after Green Platoon. So when you assess for the 160th, you go back to Fort Campbell for about a year, 9 months to a year, a training pipeline, essentially where they turn you into a Night Stalker. They teach you how to fly like the big boys, like the major leagues of flying. And I will say, like, at that point in my mental health journey, the suicidal ideations had not become daily. Like, they would creep in every 2 weeks or something. So it had become a lot more tolerable, a lot more manageable, almost to the point where I was like, okay, like, I'm feeling pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But then I was having these dizzy spells still every single day. So I was having these dizzy spells. Later we found out they were panic attacks, but that was a long story to get there, right? So I get to Fort Campbell. You start off, and stop me at any time if you want to interject, and because I'm going through it fairly quickly. But
all right, I will.
So we get to Fort Campbell, and the first thing you do is called Green Platoon, and it's a 3-week basically special operations course where you're learning shooting, land nav, medical, combatives, things like that. So you're going through kind of like a special operations indoctrination course, which was good for me at that point because I'd been out of SF for 3 years now. So it was a good like refresher, right?
Okay.
So that was a good course. And after that, you go to something called Basic Navigation or BNAV. And this is another 3-week course, but this is for the pilots. And this is where you get a paper map. You have no instruments in the aircraft, and you essentially have to plan a route on a paper map to get to a target plus or minus 30 seconds, adjusting for wind and all that stuff. And all you're doing is following a little map with a finger light in a little bird and looking outside and hoping you're on course the whole time and on time. So, yeah, it's one of those things that, like, the first mission, if you find your target, it's a miracle. Like, if you even get, it doesn't matter if you're on time, but if you even find it, it's a miracle. But then you do 9 flights throughout. And by the last one, if you don't find your target and you're not on time, like, you fail. So it's like another one of those
high pressure,
super fast progressions. Yeah, high pressure, but also really cool to see how fast you can progress when you do something like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty phenomenal because, like, you're not only just trying to stay on course, you're adjusting for the winds, right? So if there's like a 10 knots wind from the left or right, like, you have to adjust your course, your heading appropriately so that you're not going too far or you're not going, not enough. And then same with headwinds and tailwinds, like, you have to adjust your time based on that too. So it's pretty phenomenal to see.
Very
it come
technical, it
together.
sounds like.
Very
that's
technical.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bizarre. I will say, though, my, like, special forces background helped with that a little bit. Like, having some pretty advanced, actually, at that point, land navigation skills and, like, core helped me kind of accelerate that timeline of getting to my target on time. So
perfect.
Yeah. And then after that, you do, I think it's about 5 months-ish of learning how to fly the MH-60 Mike, which is the 160th Black Hawk. It's basically a Black Hawk that's souped up for, like, think of like go-kart racing versus like F1.
Oh, really?
It's a pretty drastic step. Yeah.
So the helicopter that you were flying previously, like, pales in comparison to what you.
Yeah, it's the same, like, flight controls and stuff like that, but you got new engines, you got different rotor blades, different systems, different computers. So you're basically learning. It flies kind of similar, but you're learning a new helicopter. Even the like cyclic, the stick that you steer with is different. So yeah, you're learning a new helicopter, and you're also learning how to fly the real missions, right? How to do, like, real fast rope approaches, real dust landings, pinnacle landings where you're putting one wheel on a side of a mountain, stuff like that.
That's crazy what you guys do.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's and that was kind of like the aha moment of, like, all right, I made it, right? Like, I made it. Like, I finally kind of got to where I wanted to be in aviation. And then after that's done, I went back to Savannah and integrated in 3rd Battalion, 160th. I'll never forget the first day I was walking into my unit. I'm a new guy again, I mean, yes, I have some flight experience, but I'm a brand new guy in this new special operations unit. And I get out of my car and I'm walking towards the hangar, and walking the opposite way is a CW4, which for the audience is like a senior warrant officer. So somebody with some pedigree, right? And he's walking towards me. He's got no headgear on, boots unbloused, I'm like, okay, this guy's the shit, type of thing. That's what I'm thinking in my head. And as he approaches me, he sees my name tape and sees my name, and he goes, "Nick O'Kelly, we've been waiting for you, man. It's so good to meet you." And I'm like, where am I? You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm like, where am I? Like, this is not what I expected as a new guy. And that's the 160th, man. Like, they're the most professional, mature, like, organization potentially in the Army. Like,
it's so funny you say it like that, because I remember hearing Delta guys talk back into the unit. Team 6 guys get into the unit, and it's totally unlike the white side on the SEALs or regular conventional forces. Like, it's professional, and they treat you like men, and everything is different, and it's got to be the greatest feeling to be with the best of the best.
It's outstanding, man. And like the way that you get the new guy treatment is not by like getting hazed like traditional methods, right? It's by like, it's really like drinking out of a fire hose, but
Yep.
you're getting torn apart during briefs and stuff like that. But it legit is to make you better, and it does make you better. You know, like yeah, they'll be hard on you, and they'll tell you when you effed up and what you need to fix. But the whole intent behind it, and you feel it, right? You feel that they want you to do better, and you feel that they want you to be better. So, yeah, the dynamic was super cool to see and to experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was an FTO in a police department, and I always acted towards my recruits like they were acting towards you. Like I never came off like a dickhead. I would see these guys all the time doing that to recruits. I'm like, why are you doing that, man?
Yeah.
Put some under more stress. I'm like, no, you should be. Why? They don't need more stress. They're already stressed out as can be.
Right.
Welcome them. Tell them to relax. You know, it's no cakewalk now. You know, we're having ground rules here, but you know, I want them to be relaxed as I'm teaching them. Not, I would tell them, I don't want you worried about what Mike's thinking. Do what you think is the right thing to do and pay attention. You know, the worst thing, as far as I'm concerned, is to have a recruit be like, what does Mike want me to do? And, you know, he's got 50 thoughts going through his head, and he's never going to make the right decision because all that stress is heaped upon him. It's the worst thing you could possibly do to a guy or a girl. Yeah,
because if you're the right type of person, like you're already putting enough stress on yourself, you know, to perform. So I agree. I mean, there's a time and place to like be a dick, right? Like if somebody does something,
you have to get in someone's ass.
Yeah, because if somebody does something stupid, like they need to know that's not okay. But you're right,
100%.
like breathing down their neck and like micromanaging everything and almost going back to like my childhood, right? Almost like forcing success. That's not a good method to like let somebody become who you want them to be. You know?
Yeah.
You're
and it was usually
them.
implemented by the worst cops who sucked on their own, but you know that's what they would project onto these kids. They, you know, they wouldn't be able to do it themselves, but they would do it to them. It's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So, and so on the mental health side, now that I'm at 3rd Battalion, 160th, now that I'm like finally made it to the unit, the suicidal stuff was gone. So the depression side of it was gone. Well, not gone, right? But like not overwhelming. So it was like thoughts would still come, but it wasn't as scary. I wasn't in like as much of the fight or flight mode as far as that's concerned. But now I was still having these dizzy spells, and they would span from literally being there all day to being just off kilter and feel like, you know, I had to like secretly be by a wall sometimes when we were like standing, you know, in a group. I'd secretly be by a wall just to like, okay, if I get really dizzy, I'm, you know, I have something right here. To all the way to the point where I would have these like instant vertigo, head over heels sensations to where it just felt like my head was about to crash onto the table or whatever. And the weirdest thing, man, is I would be in like direct conversations with people across the table from me, and this would happen to me and they didn't even notice. And in my mind, I'm like, how the hell did that just happen? And nobody knew it happened, you know? So like, it's just mind blowing that was even a thing. But so my 160th experience was amazing. I was progressing really well, doing everything, and got a good deployment in with them. And that's kind of where I got it in as a pilot, like got to go to target and bring the cool guys to the X and, you know, see it all to come together, which was amazing. And then after that deployment, about 9 months after that deployment, I had to get knee surgery. So my right knee, I had a hole in my right knee that just had been, I'm just wear and tear, right? It was just grinded down to the bone. So it was bone on bone, and I had to get a plug put into my knee. And this ended up being like a 9-month recovery timeline.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. So it was frustrating because I was 3 months away from my FMQ check ride, which is, so in the 160th, when you get to the unit, you're basic mission qualified, BMQ. That's essentially saying, all right, you're a Night Stalker, you're a 160th pilot, but you're not in charge of the aircraft yet. You can't have ground force on the back when you're in charge of the aircraft type of thing. So FMQ is when you get your license to be in charge of the helicopter and fly the ground force, right? So I was 3 months away from that. So I was at this critical point where I was like, do I just push through this pain, continue with, you know, my knee issues, whatever, and get my FMQ ride done and then go get surgery? or do I get surgery and then kind of pick back up? And I had really good leaders, man, and they advised me. They're like, dude, if you're going to be in this unit a long time, like, take care of yourself now. Don't have that mentality, that short-term mentality of you have to, like, you know, push through pain and stuff like that. And ironically, right, the mental health stuff was all there, but they weren't talking about that, right? This is a knee issue. So so I get knee surgery. It puts me down for 9 months, and it ended up taking a little bit longer. It ended up being almost a year recovery time. But at the end of that recovery, my wife pushed me to go talk to somebody because she knew about the dizzy spells. I still was kind of sugarcoating it and saying, like, you know, I don't know what's going on. It's not, I don't think it's mental health, right? I didn't want to open that can of worms. So, I go talk to the flight doc and I tell him, hey, I've been having these dizzy spells. I don't know why. Like, didn't tell him my history of suicidal thoughts or anything like that, right? I was just like, there's something wrong with me physically. Let's figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
And so we do the gamut. We do head to toe scans, right? CT scans, ear tests, nerve tests, all of the above, stress tests on my heart. Everything's coming back fine, except for I got a sleep study done. And the sleep study came back that I had narcolepsy with.
Really?
Yeah. So for anybody that doesn't know, narcolepsy is where you fall asleep randomly. Like, think Mr. Bean, like he just, in, I think, Rat Race, he just randomly falls asleep. And that's what narcolepsy is. And I'm like, first of all,
one second. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just have to inject a funny story. So I'm in Atlanta Police Department. I'm an Atlanta cop at this time. And we had senior police officers, 2 on each watch, and they would be responsible for training the rookies. So I get to work one day, and one of them's out sick. So the sergeant's like, hey, can you take this rookie out today? I'm like, yeah, no sweat. So I'm kind of walking around, and one of the other rookies comes up to me. He's like, excuse me, sir. He's like, I just want to tell you that, what the hell is this kid's name? I think his last name is, I don't even want to say it. But he goes, he's a narcoleptic. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty funny, bro. But then number one, he's not laughing. Number two, I'm like, this recruit's actually got balls if he's coming up here, you know, joking around like this. And I didn't think he was kidding around. I'm like, you fucking with me? He's like, no, sir. I'm like, what do you mean he's narcoleptic? He's like, yeah, we were at the range and he fell asleep standing up. I'm like, bro, how the fuck does a narcoleptic get a job as a cop?
For real.
He's like, that's a great question, sir. So I go up to him. I said, hey, bro. I'm like, introduce myself. I said, I have a question, man. Are you a narcoleptic? He's like, yes, sir. I'm like, how the fuck does a cop get a job as a narcoleptic? And or a narcoleptic gets a job as a cop? And he's like, well, I'm on medication, sir. I'm like, okay. So we leave the precinct, and I'm kind of going over the ground rules. We're literally quarter mile down the road, and I'm telling him, you know, things to do. I'm going to take care of the radio today. I look over, this dude's out like a light. I'm like, yo! He wakes up. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, one more time, bro. I'm taking you back to the precinct. Tell the lieutenant you're done. And he stayed awake the rest of the tour, but I went back to all my supervisors. I'm like, this is insane. Yeah. And he stayed with the job for like 2 years, man. I think he got fired eventually. But I was blown away, brother.
That's mind-blowing.
Narcoleptic. Yeah.
That's mind-blowing. Yeah, because, like, if you really have it, right? Like, dude, that's so dangerous.
Yeah. I thought he was kind of sleeping like a quarter mile into the ride. I was blown away. I'm like, we're really getting desperate, huh?
Yeah, for real. That's
Holy
wild.
Shit. Yeah, I know. I was expecting to come to work the next day and I have to work with a midget or something.
Right, exactly. So you get it then, like, dude, I'm a pilot, and I'm like, wait a second. I've been flying for the last 5 years, and I have narcolepsy. Like, you're telling me that? I've never fallen asleep in the cockpit. Like, never. Sure, I've been like tired driving home from work, right? But like, whatever. Who doesn't, right? So,
how did they figure this out?
So I did a sleep study with a civilian doctor, because I was like, since I was having these like dizzy spells and stuff, I was just exhausted all the time, man. And I was like, let's check out my sleep, right? Maybe it's something with my sleep. So got a sleep study done by a civilian doctor in Savannah. So not an Army doctor. And that's kind of important to the next part. So I get diagnosed with narcolepsy. And what my flight doc does is he's like, okay, like, dude, you can't fly with narcolepsy. And I'm like, I know. And in my mind, I'm kind of justifying it, right? Because I'm like, okay, maybe that explains these dizzy spells. Like, maybe that explains these vertigo sensations. Maybe I'm taking these weird micro naps, you know, and waking myself back up, and my body thinks it's fallen over. So I'm justifying it. And in a way, to be honest, I'm kind of relieved, because this is years of dealing with this shit, and I'm finally like, okay, maybe I have an answer, right? Like maybe this is it. Maybe this is my out, and I don't have to admit anything mental health related.
Of course.
So I get that diagnosis. My flight doc basically reports it back to Fort Rucker, Alabama, which is where the head of Army Aviation Medicine is. They send a letter back that permanently grounds me from flying. And my flight doc's like, all right, man, you got two choices. We can get you medically retired from the Army, or we can try to reclass you and get you into a different job. And I'm like, no, man, like I want to be doing what I'm doing, or I don't want to be in the Army. Right.
Yeah.
So, we put in for the medical board, and it gets denied by the Army because my sleep study wasn't done by an Army facility. So at the Army facilities, you have to wear a watch for 2 weeks prior to the sleep study called an actigraphy. Okay. And it basically tracks your sleep for that 2 weeks to make sure you're not like cheating the system, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So I do that. I do the sleep study at Fort Gordon. And mind you, this is like months to get it scheduled, and then another like 2 months to get the results. So I'm just like in this purgatory land of like, my knee's better. I can't fly. Like I'm still showing up to work and like in the planning cell and trying to contribute, basically trying to like act like I'm going to get back in the cockpit, you know, because I was trying to. And the Army sleep study results come back and they say you have no diagnosable criteria for narcolepsy. So I don't have it now. So I'm permanently grounded though from the Army's perspective. So
why?
It doesn't,
if you don't have it.
Right, exactly. So we would have had to jump through a bunch of hoops, do a bunch of waivers, get multiple sleep studies after that to kind of try to go through that process. And at this point I'm like, F it, you know, like I'm just like, okay, like I'm okay with not flying. I'm just done. And we kept fighting the narcolepsy diagnosis. We did had one more consult with the sleep doc, and he did something called, well, it's a spinal tap, and there's a fluid called hypocretin that they can test for, and that essentially, like, if you're above a certain threshold, you likely have narcolepsy, or it's diagnosable for narcolepsy. Since he didn't have the watch, he was like, we could do that and check it out. We do that, and I don't have it, so I still don't have it. So I'm good, but I'm still having these dizzy spells, right? And that was the point where the flight, well, before this, I was already talking to a psychologist, but I hadn't let the cat out of the bag on anything. It was performance coaching, right? Okay. I was just talking to her to whatever, get my mindset right and be optimal and all that stuff. So once I got that final sleep study result, that's when the gloves were off. And I was like, I'm just telling her. I'm telling her everything. And we're gonna see if this is it, right? And because there was no consequences at that point. I'm already past. The Army couldn't do anything else to me, right? I'm already permanently grounded. Like, I can't get out of the Army, but I just have to stay here in purgatory. So I told her my history and everything, and that led us to talking to a psychiatrist and starting anti-anxiety meds. And it took probably 6 or 7 different combos of meds. But I will say with each one, I did see a slight improvement. So I told the psychiatrist, like, hey, like, I'm feeling a little better, right? I'm not like fully there yet, but I think we're onto something. And I finally got on Effexor, and my symptoms cleared up like 95%, man. And it was very apparent that it was anxiety. And I did not want to admit it. I still didn't like that it was anxiety. Yeah. But the psychologist read the symptoms of anxiety with panic disorder, and man, it was just line for line. Everything she said, I was like, shit, like, yeah, that's it. And I will tell you right now, and this is that moment was a pivotal moment in my life, my career, everything. When I had a name for it and when I accepted that that's what it was, you know, like I still didn't fully accept it, but when I knew, like, this is it. And now we can attack it this way. And now we actually know what it is. Now we have an answer. Yeah. And now, like, this is kind of my reality. And I'm just going to deal with it. And eventually that led to me getting medically retired. But, yeah, that's kind of my mental health journey. And I didn't heal overnight, right? The symptoms got better. And the medication was... I'm a fan of medication if it's like a Band-Aid, right? If it's a
agree.
temporary thing, because it gave me the space to look at when are these things happening, right? It was happening in the normal, like crowds, formations, when I had to give a brief, things like that, like high stress situations that I kind of didn't have control of what was going on, and there were a lot of people around. That's when they were happening. But I wasn't able to identify that until I got on the medication, because they were happening all the time. Like, it was just nonstop. So I was like, I'm just completely dizzy all the time. I have no clarity on why this is happening. But then once I got on it, it became situational, and it allowed me to look at it and tell her and say, this is when they're happening now. So
when you're introduced to the stimuli now under the medication, what happens at that point?
So I would still get them.
It happen just but much less.
Yep. So I would
but
still get them.
But you're able to pinpoint exactly when it's happening.
Exactly. So it wasn't happening throughout the day like it was before. Now it was just happening in those certain situations, which still felt random because I still wasn't used to it, right? And I still wasn't ready for it. But at least I could look back and say, oh, yeah, I was doing that. That's probably why that happened. And bring that back to her, and we were able to finally get to a diagnosis. And mind you, this is like a 2-year period. So all of this medical, everything was like 2 years where I'm just trying to figure out what's next in my life,
Oh, yeah. I can imagine the relief on your mind, though, at least.
Man.
Now you have definitive proof that this is it, and now we can kind of attack and go to the cause. And so what happens at this point when you identify the actual triggers? So what is it just, you tell me.
Yeah. No, good question. So the medication's working. So now all of the tools that I learned before, like, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, breath work, meditation, now all of a sudden these things are working, man. Because now I have the clarity and the mind space to be out of fight or flight, to actually start progressing out of this instead of just staying in the pit and in the rut. And then, so we put in the medical retirement board. So I got medically retired. It still took a while, it took like a good 6 to 8 months to actually get out of the Army. But so I knew I was going to go into financial planning when I got out and start a financial planning firm. So during that, like last year, I was just studying and kind of getting ready for my next phase of life. So my transition, fortunately, was smooth-ish, because all that crap already happened to me, right? I was already kind of, ironically, like, most dudes find it when they transition. I had already, I was on the back end of it. So, but the whole reason, like, I'm writing this book, Stigma, man, is because I look back on that time period of my life, and, like, that was almost 6 years of my life that I was a horrible husband. I was a horrible father. Like, I was just a zombie of myself, man. And it's because of those damn stigmas. Like, I admitting mental health did not feel okay in the community I was at. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not, frankly.
It's not, and it needs to change, because how many dudes do we hear who were SEAL Team 6 guys, Tier 1 guys, whatever, did all this badass stuff, police officers, right? See things every single day, firefighters, everything. And they deal with a mental health thing, but here's the thing, is they don't talk about it until after, right? They don't talk about it until they're on the backside of it. Because then it's like, okay, I conquered that. It's okay to talk about now, right? But nobody talks about it. Nobody feels okay talking about it when they're going through it, because they still feel alone. They still feel crazy. They still feel like they're going to be judged. Their reputation's going to be shit. Like, all of those stigmas that we internalize and that our culture has taught us is what's causing people to stay in it longer, or, the dreaded taking their lives. And that's what I want people to take out of this, is like, talk about it while you're going through it. Don't wait till after, because then it might be too late. Like, and it's okay. It doesn't make you less than in any way, shape, or form, So that's
it's a huge message. And, for those who've gone through it, mine just happened to occur after, what it was? It was, I had time to think after I retired. And that's when mine kind of kicked in. Exactly. I kept myself so busy and was so good at compartmentalizing. I had a really bad relationship with my father growing up. So what I did was kind of callous up to not go through the pain of his mental abuse and
Yeah.
carried that into my profession. And it was great in certain respects because it allowed me to compartmentalize everything and not feel
Right.
other people's pains until that box blew. And then, everyone's got a saturation point, and you don't know when yours is going to be and when that lid's going to blow.
Right.
I don't know. Fortunately or unfortunately, I made my whole career without it happening, and then it happened afterwards. But once I realized what was going on, I told myself, "There's no way that I'm going through the rest of my life suffering, becoming this ornery man that hates everyone and everything." Like, I knew I needed help. I didn't think traditional counseling was going to do it for me. I didn't think I was going to talk to a man or a woman behind a desk, tell them what I've done, what I've seen, and they were going to be able to help me. And I had seen these guys talking about healing through psychedelics. And at first, I was pessimistic, but I started paying a lot more attention, and was able to heal through the use of. And the greatest thing that allowed me to become is vulnerable.
Yes.
We went for our first journey last year, my wife and I, and that next week, that next Tuesday, I did a Facebook Live. It's 35 minutes. I cried, and I was just kind of telling people. It was meant for the officers that I used to work with, my friends, to tell you, if you guys are going through this, man, this is my journey. This is what just happened to me. And I was crying. I got done. I went back inside, and I'm like, I told her, like, number one, I would not have had the capacity to cry. If I did, I would have been so embarrassed about it before. I go, I'm so proud of myself for crying. And next day, I got 4 calls. 3 really good friends, cops, who were going through it. One who had a gun in his mouth in a not too distant past. And then a 4th was a family friend who was going through it. And, I helped all of them. And I was like, wow, this is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And it's mind-boggling. But, yeah, we all think we're alone. There's hundreds of thousands of us who are going through this shit, guys.
Right.
No one's alone, I promise you that. And then everyone else thinks that everyone else has it figured out. And, like you're a master at masking it. But we only allow others to see what we want them to see of us. And I promise you, like, I was talking to Taylor one night about this specific thing. And he was talking about 2 specific guys in DevGru that he thought had it figured out. They were great. Careers were great. Post-career was looking great. And all of a sudden it imploded on both of them. And he's like, Mike, I realized at that point no one has it fucking all worked out. And like Goggins says, everyone's fucked up, man. It's just, the degree and the amount that you let people see into your lives to show how fucked you are. We're all fucked up in our own way or form.
Yeah.
But, us, again, showing this vulnerability, man, we can't do it. Or we think we can't do it. We should be doing it because that is actual strength. Opening up and speaking about your feelings and letting others in. Like, I could not have had this conversation with you a year ago, like asking about and talking about feelings. I would have felt so weak. As funny as it sounds, it's fucking sad.
Yep, me too.
But what's even sadder, brother, is there are guys who'd rather kill themselves than let themselves become vulnerable and talk about that. Like, how mind-boggling is this?
I know,
You'd rather
man.
kill yourself. Well, feel that's the only way out. It's crazy.
I know. And I was close to being there, man, so I get it. Like, it's insane what we let ourselves believe, that your life is not more important than, yes, being vulnerable, right? And vulnerable is like, it's an interesting term, and I don't want to get like philosophical, right? But like,
no.
I actually thought about this a lot lately. Vulnerability it's not weakness, right?
No.
It's being exposed or exposing yourself to some sort of danger, right? Which does not mean you're a weak person, right? If you're camping and a bear sneaks up on your campsite, damn well you're vulnerable. You didn't do anything to get in that situation, right? That does not make you a weak person. What makes you potentially a weak person is what you do in that situation, right? Yep. Are you going to rise above it? Are you going to have the courage to do something about it? Or are you going to hide and cower, So I see vulnerability as like an opportunity to be courageous, right?
Yeah.
And it's a superpower, man. Once you learn that, like, because I agree, I was not that guy. Like 3-4 years ago, I would not have told anybody any of this stuff.
Hell no.
It was my deepest, darkest, most shameful secrets, right? But now that I have, man, it has allowed me to be the person that I truly am and that I want to be, So there's a lot of power in what you're saying. And Yeah.
Well, you're being your most genuine, authentic self.
Exactly.
And look what you're doing right now, man. How authentic, how vulnerable is this? Like, you're getting on and admitting your deepest, darkest secrets to potentially millions of people, the world,
Yeah.
and in an effort to help others. So if that's not showing power, then fucking you guys show me what is. Because to me, that is an absolute sign of absolute strength. There's no weakness here whatsoever. You are stripping yourself down in order to help others not go through the same thing or avoid it or get help. And you're telling me that's weakness? Yeah, okay.
Amen, man.
Yeah.
Because it is, I will say, like, mental health struggles may not be preventable, but the longevity of them can be prevented, right? If we are willing to be vulnerable and unleash that superpower and humble ourselves to the point where we're like,
Yep.
I can't do this on my own. I need something else,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's psychedelics, whether it's, just doing cold plunging and things like that, like just those modalities that improve your overall dopamine levels. There's so many things that you can do, or whether it's going to behavioral health and saying, I'm in a crisis, I need freaking help. Like,
absolutely.
My life is more important than my life, and my family's life is more important than even my career, which is hard to admit, especially when you're when you're in the high performing,
Yeah, and you identify as that. If fortunately or unfortunately, you identify as a Green Beret. You identify as a 160 pilot. I identified as a cop. As much as we don't want to, like, how can you not?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's impossible
because it's your life.
Yeah,
like that's who you are. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and you sacrifice so much to get there. Inevitably, people tell you not to let it become, but it becomes. Let's be frank about it.
No, it does.
Doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. In certain respects it is, but in others it's not. But, in doing what you're doing, this noble purpose that you're carrying forth, like, only an unhealed person would say that this is weakness. There is this absolute strength and honor, as far as I'm concerned, and nobility to go forth and bare your soul to help others. So, give yourself a pat on the back. And, I would say grace if you're still going through it, but we all need to give ourselves grace because we are our harshest critic. We talk more to ourselves than anyone's ever going to. So stop the negative talk to yourself, because your mind cannot reconcile whether it's you talking or someone else talking to you. Yeah. And it conditions itself to accept what you're telling it. Yep. So that's another thing, man, I learned is to not talk bad to myself.
That was one of the hardest things for me to learn, because pre-Nick was, what the hell is wrong with you? Why the hell are you thinking these things? You have an awesome life. You have no excuse and no reason to be feeling this way. That's what was keeping me trapped, right?
Yep.
And now it's because like, I'll still have an intrusive thought, right, here and there.
Yeah, of course.
They still happen, right? Like, I'm not like ever going to be bulletproof. But now but now when they happen, it's like, that was interesting. That wasn't mine. I wonder why that happened, but not like condemning myself, kind of like acknowledging it, but not giving it the attention that it deserves or that it was getting before. And that's the difference, man, is how you treat yourself. Just like you said, like giving yourself grace. Like, we're already under enough pressure. Like,
exactly.
At least be kind to yourself. And it's not easy. It's not easy when you feel like you're going crazy, but
if it was, we would not all be doing it to ourselves.
Right.
But it's funny because that negative voice is so loud, almost screams, and that positive one's almost like this whisper. It's barely audible. Yep. Like, it's amazing. It should be the opposite way around.
I know. Isn't that wild?
But it really is.
I mean,
but with guys like you writing books and coming on and talking about this stuff, like, we're slowly evolving, from the caveman that we are. Yeah, we have to. I mean, it's just evolution. There is no constant but change, and we have to do that. Unfortunately, these government entities are moving glacially paces, so it's going to take many more years. So listen, man, it's going to take alpha men like you talking about it and having podcasts like this for other alphas, because just what happened with me watching Eddie Penny, if it wasn't him, if it was some 110-pound soy boy, it never would have resonated with me. Yep. But I'm watching this fucking warrior cry, and subconsciously, man, as I'm doing it, I'm like, why? Like, why am I crying? Like, I couldn't even figure it out.
Yeah.
My first reaction was to look inside because I was so embarrassed to make sure my wife would not come home from food shopping because I was so embarrassed.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. And she's a life coach, man. She would have hugged me. She would have encouraged me to let it out. But, no, man, you can't be crying, you pussy. Like, that's it.
Dude, even that mentality, man. Like, it's crazy that we all have it, but like, dude, I think as a full-grown man, I think if you are able to cry when something is impactful and emotional, I think that is one of the like most powerful things ever. Like, and makes you so emotionally mature. You might not feel that way in the moment, right? You might be like, shit, I don't want anybody to see this, but like, dude, that means you have empathy, right? That means you are emotionally mature and emotionally intelligent. And the only reason I can say that with confidence is because when I was on the medication for all those years, I didn't cry once, man. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with me, right? Like, I just felt like I was like just a robot, right? And then when I got off it, like, I don't remember the story. I need to recall, but I remember I like cried and I was like, damn, that felt really good, you know? And it wasn't like a sad cry. It was like a proud cry, right? It was like this is awesome type of cry, like, you know, but it felt so good. And
it's so
the emotional maturity is amazing.
Yeah. In fact, when I first told about that story about the 2-year-old found floating in a pool, that day, it is amazing because yesterday I was reading Doug's book and Doug had referenced a call that he was on and this woman's visceral, guttural cries about losing her child. And he said, if you've ever experienced that, you'll never forget it. I was actually crying in the pool because that day I had to stay back. We resuscitated the baby, handed her off to the paramedics. They took our parents and her and ran to the hospital. But I had to stay there for 3 hours listening to her grandparents who were in charge of watching the kids cry. It was the most visceral cries I've ever heard in my life. I was crawling out of my skin. I've never had that feeling in my life before or since. And I actually went to go behind that pool. I started crying. First call in 30 years. I've never cried on a call except for that one. And I stopped myself. I'm like, you fucking pussy, you can't cry. And that was it. Would have been the best thing that could have happened to me.
Right.
But I stopped myself. And then yesterday I'm reading Doug's book about, you know, if you ever experience that, you will never forget how it feels. I just started crying. Man. And it was a powerful moment.
That is so
but yeah,
powerful.
like you said, man, do not ever dismiss crying as being a pussy because it's the furthest thing from the truth. It shows 100%. Empathy. You know, and it shows that you have compassion and you have a heart, as opposed to, you know, being this hardened man is like this trophy that you're supposed to walk around with. Like, no, that's not the way life works, man. You're supposed to feel.
Right, exactly. Like, prove that you're hard with your actions, right?
Exactly.
Like, that's how you prove you're a man, is like by what you do on the day-to-day, by how you show up. Not like hiding who you truly are. That's not being a real man. In my opinion. Like, that's actually the 100%. Opposite. Right?
Yeah.
That's peacocking and pretending you're someone you're not.
Yep.
It's not. Yeah.
I agree. So, brother, it's been a fantastic talk. I loved having this conversation with you.
Thanks.
I can't wait to read the book. It's coming out when? October 1st?
Yeah, so pre-orders live now. Website's thenickokelley.com/stigma. So
nice.
October 21st release date. Pre-orders available right now.
All right, beautiful. So, guys, where else, if anyone wants to reach you, where can they do it? All the links will be in the bio as well, but just please tell.
Yeah, so my website's the easiest place. It has links. It's thenickokelley.com. I got a YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. TikTok, follow me on there. But all the links are on the website. That's the easiest place to just find everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So if you like what you saw, please hit like and subscribe. I don't know how you couldn't like this podcast, but I thought it was unbelievable myself. And again, Nick, I thank you so much for being on. It was an honor having you on. Cannot wait to read the book. And we'll see what happens in the future because I know you're going to do big stuff, brother.
Thanks, man. And thanks for having me. Thanks for doing what you're doing as well. It's needed, as you know.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, guys. We will see you soon.